Let's yap about it. Yeah. Let's yap about it. Yap about it podcast. Yeah. Starring Raw Bass. Let's yap about it.
What's up, guys? You already know who it is. It's Rob, the solution this time. Welcome to the Let's Yap About It podcast. We're here to chat about the music, art, fashion, and culture. I'm here with Dres Tha Beatnik, and we definitely gonna tap in, man. So, we definitely chopped it up yesterday, and we actually had some intellectual conversations, especially when it comes to music and culture.
Yes, sir.
But let the people know who you are.
Well, first and foremost, I am my mother's son. I'm my daughter's father. Outside of that, I am a human beatboxer, MC. I am a internationally traveled host or master of ceremonies, produce concerts, tours, and events. I'm currently in Houston, Texas, for work-related purposes, and I'm having a good time, and I'm happy to be here. So, and glad to be a resource and a source for those who may need it.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. It was a pleasure, man. We started rapping and taste about everything as far as the culture and as far as music, right?
Yes, sir.
But let them know where you from and and the history of music or where you come from.
Well, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. Some of the kids will call it Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or some bullshit like that. I'm from Philly. Atlanta's my home. It's been my home for almost 30 years. Philadelphia was a great place to become a kid. Atlanta's a great place for me to become an adult. All that I have has been attributed to actually my dual citizenship, if you will. Being able to bring knowledge itself with me from Philadelphia and from Atlanta has helped mold and shape me for the career and the purpose that I'm here for. So, no doubt.
Absolutely. Name some of the artists that, you know what I'm saying, that came out of Philly that, you know, represented, that are homegrown to you.
Well, my era of Philly hip-hop, we're talking MC Breeze, we're talking Tough Crew, we're talking Schoolie D, we're talking Cool C, Hilltop Hustlers, we're talking 3 Times Dope. I did mention the Tough Crew, Philly Legends all day, every day, twice on a Sunday. The legendary Roots Crew, Jeff and Fresh Prince. Yvette Love. It goes on and on and on. Like my roots run deep when it comes to Philly hip hop. That's the era that I came up in, and I'm super proud of what's been accomplished during that time. Moving to Atlanta, I got to Atlanta before the Olympics, so pre-96. We're talking bass era Atlanta. We're talking Shy D, we're talking Raheem the Dream. We're talking Ghetto Mafia. It's King Edward J mixtapes. We talking like true Atlanta, old Atlanta as they call it now, but I still call it true Atlanta because without that foundation, there's a lot that wouldn't be able to stand today. So, the Kilo Ali's of the world, that was the era of Atlanta that I actually came around and growing into understanding. When I got to Atlanta, the thing that I didn't see, I didn't see me in Atlanta. I didn't see my aesthetic in Atlanta. I came from an area where lyrics counted.
Right.
And moved to a city where bass is king.
Yeah. To me, I believe the drive and the competitiveness as far as being an MC, especially in the rap game, it changed and it shifted because you had to be great. And your name had to be solidified in the streets as far as you to become a great MC. You had to be stamped. Yeah. Now, it's where you can just be homegrown, make something, and then it just goes viral, so.
I echo the sentiment. It's not that, here's where you and I may differ. It's not that skill is off the table. Mm-hmm. I don't take anything from any rapper. it takes a huge amount of mind power to create music. In that regard, every MC is one fucking Einstein. The content of what you're creating through that skill set is what I question. That's what grinds my gears when it comes to that. Because I know you're capable of better, but you're only going for this low-hanging fruit because you think that's what everybody wants, and you're trying to be pop instead of being hip-hop. You can't do both. Even the ones that you think are doing both aren't doing both. There just happens to be a format for that music to get played, for that agenda to be presented. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the content that's king and that everybody should do it. You got other things in life. We always say and we always hear, black people are not a monolith, right? We're not one-dimensional. Please remember this, write it down. Black people are not one-dimensional. Cool. But why is the music one-dimensional when it comes to mainstream radio? It shouldn't have to be. Like, there should be enough room for a Cardi B and a Lil Russell. But there isn't. For some odd reason, the powers that be that make these programming decisions don't really believe that there is room for both. But there's fan bases for both. Like, look, I say Lil Russell, I'm using Lil Russell as an example in this conversation because right now he's an independent artist out in California. He's using the tools that are at his advantage, social media. You know, he's using these tools to create art, and it's resonating. He just happens to live in a market where you don't have to leave the market to make money. He can live, breathe, and thrive and die in California,
Right.
and never have to travel outside of California. Texas is one of those markets. New York is one of those markets. You don't have to leave. You can have it. You can say proudly with your chest out, I rap for a living, and nobody look at you crazy, because you can go anywhere within that territory and make a living. If the song pops. But now I need more. It's 2024 now. I need more than you transporting keys of coke and fucking hoes. I need more than that now. Not because of the age I am, but because my people need more. And I really believe that. That's it.
I want to send a shout out to a female MC, Jean Grey,
Hell yeah.
who never gets talked about. One of the greatest female MCs that I've ever heard in my entire life, that I felt like was passed the baton from the Queen Latifahs and everybody else that came before, even the Ladies of Rage and stuff like that, that transition. I believe that she has a spot in hip hop and she doesn't get talked about. Now I'll say this, now like at the Jack Daniels thing last night, they played a variety of music that had from old school to new school to back in 90s all the way up to date now. And I feel like that right there is our, like you said, we're not one-dimensional because all of the songs that they were playing were hits. So I think that that's where that market has to be as far as those program directors to see that certain space. And it is allowed because we do see the MCing come back. Shout out to Lil Brother. Shout out to J. Cole. All those artists that were hip-hop in the 2000s who didn't get that push because of the commercialization of, you know, the party music. But I feel like there's always been a spot for him. And shout out to Kendrick Lamar, too, for putting it out there like that, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So at the show last night, man, 8Ball MJG, one of the most talented Southern artists of all time, who created timeless music. I feel like they have taken a lot of guys up under their wings, being able to be relevant this long. And I feel like that we should have I believe a hip hop coalition to where they could come and they could actually be the A&Rs of knowing what to do and not to do, especially in the music industry.
Well, I mean, that sounds great, and I think that's a very noteworthy and noble cause. But when you talk to most artists, quite honestly, they're never done with being an artist. So to ask an artist to transition from being an artist to being taking on an executive role, if you will, it's not in them. They wouldn't do it. You know, it's not to say that they wouldn't give it a try, but I think it would be short-lived. I don't think everybody has what I call Grand Poobah DNA.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
Everybody don't have that. And shout out to Maxwell Dixon, who's one of the most underrated and slept on producers in hip hop history, period. That dude has put on more cats than anybody care to give him credit for. But like in his era is a staple. You know what I'm saying? Like that, we're talking that transition, that golden era transition. He's partly responsible for that. But that's him having to take a step back from being an MC to being an A&R.
Absolutely.
You know, and he did it for a little while. He made an impact, and after a while, like, fuck this shit. I miss being on the mic, and went back to Brand New Me and went back to making music. You know, and it's the same guy that, you know, this was Masters of Ceremony when he started. You know, he did that. Him and Sadat and Jamal, they did that. It worked. It was great. And then they transitioned to Brand Nubian. You know, they got Knowledge of Self. They transitioned to Brand Nubian and made incredible music.
Absolutely.
You know, but there was more opportunity to put others on as an A&R. So him and Dante Ross, big up to Dante Ross.
Shout out to
you know
him.
what I'm saying? They created one of the most iconic rosters of hip hop music at Elektra. You know, we talking leaders of the new school. We talking, you know, we talking Brand Nubian. We talking P Rock and CL Smooth. Like we're talking artists that still are around today.
Facts.
And still very relevant.
Shout out to Pete Rock. Listen, producing one heck of a track on West Side Gun's album. He's still relevant to this day.
Mm-hmm. What up, Pete?
Hey man, shout out to Pete, man, for real.
No doubt. So you know, it takes a special kind of ear and eye to do that, and everybody doesn't have it. Everybody has an agenda, but everybody doesn't have the talent to differentiate. You know, that level of discernment that's necessary. Because you could find the next Kendrick Lamar, but you might not be able to entice him to sign a contract. You know, and the way that the game gets painted these days, the way it gets so bastardized, nobody wants the loan. That's a record contract.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. So how do you know, if you're working at a major who's literally just suffered massive layoffs that's been reported in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah.
How do you convince an artist to still want to get a record deal? In 2024, how do you convince today's musical artist, doesn't fuck the genre, how do you convince them that signing a major record deal is better than betting on yourself and going independent?
You know, it's funny you say that, because when I talk, when I've noticed the transition from CD to digital, the digital space, I've noticed several things. The 360 deal had become more relevant, right? Mm-hmm. But then they had a thing that happened, which was a triggering effect that nobody paid attention to. Was NBA YoungBoy, who doesn't actually need a record company anymore. I mean, he literally is direct from him to consumer for his music, and he has literally cut out the middleman, and nobody's talking about it.
Well, he went the Tech 9 route.
Man, he been independent for years. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And I mean, the industry hates artists like that. Let's call it what it is. Like, you know, those off the reservation rogue artists that can still get it without needing what major record deal could provide. 360 deals are great if you have nothing, and a lot of artists don't have anything, so they take on these what I call predatory loans, no different than a payday loan. You know what I'm saying? Just a couple more O's to it.
Right.
But it's we give you this money, we own a piece of everything till we get our bread back, and even after we get our bread back, we're partners for the rest of the ride. Everybody's not willing to give up everything or a piece of everything. Crazy part is, in business, you got to give up something to gain something more. It turns into this whole tete-a-tete back and forth thing on it's what tugs at your soul. Is going and divesting my business, my brand, my artistry, is it worth it to upgrade, to elevate? What does upgrade and elevate look like to me? A lot of these artists are out here literally like by themselves out here. Their boys ain't went to business school. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? They ain't went to business school. Ain't no homies got accounting degrees. Shit, most of them don't even have a bank account. But they know how to spend your bread. They know how to roll up weed. They know how to keep the liquor going. Let's just keep them drunk and high, and then we'll get what we can get. Y'all not helping to build a business. This is the word legacy doesn't get tossed around enough when it comes to this music shit.
Thank you. Come on, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that's a whole nother course. That's like 303 type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like not 101. That's 303 shit.
Yeah.
You know, legacy planning. Nobody teaches that to any of these artists, and the ones that happen to learn it, you see it. Like you see it manifesting itself. Bun B is a perfect example of that. You know, taking his brand after Pimp died, he was supposed to be irrelevant. Like, oh well, that's the end of Pimp. That's the end of Bun B. The Pimp done left the building. What are you gonna do? Bun B had the best pivot I've seen in the last 30 fucking years when it comes to this hip hop shit.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And everybody can't do that.
Shout out to Trill Burgers too, man. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's all a plan. And if you don't come in, what Mike Tyson say? Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face. But you gotta have a plan. You have to. If you don't have a plan, you ain't got shit. And if you ain't got shit, you might as well stop. The post office is always hiring. All you gotta do is answer a couple questions. Study an exam, answer a couple questions, and that's it. You know, here's a sack, here's some mail. Go be somebody.
Yeah, it is.
You know, but you know, we're all at the end of the day as artists, as those that work within the main frame of the construct of what this industry is. At the end of the day, it is a very real business that is powered and influenced by dreamers. I don't give a fuck how gangster you think you are. At the end of the day, we're all nerds. We're all nerds, bro.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not gonna. I don't question anybody's toughness. Like, tough and violent is in everybody's DNA. But at the end of the day, nigga, you put words together. Like, you're a nerd. It's okay. I'm a nerd. You know what I'm saying? He's a nerd. She's a nerd. Wouldn't you like to be a nerd too? Like, it's cool. It's okay. You know, but when it's okay to admit that to yourself. And when you admit that to yourself, you can actually there's a lot of shit that you can let roll off your back, and there's a lot of ground you can cover, because the level of fear of peer pressure is gone. You're not worried about what anybody else is going to think. You're now just moving. You're moving on a different level. You're moving in a different plane. It's, you know, I gotta I can talk about these things that normally I didn't think I could talk about. Only person limiting you is you. When you admit the simple shit, life gets so much lighter.
Facts. Now now I'm gonna ask this question to say to the youth, because I want to reconnect us back together. You know what I mean? Because there's a huge separation, especially when it came to music. We got to see that a little bit, where the youngsters were, having a way, especially in the music industry, and then the older were trying. They felt some type of way about that. What do you say to the youth to bridge that gap? You know what I'm saying? For us to be able to make that happen.
Well, I mean, you had mentioned it earlier. A lot of this is competition's baked into it. So elders are always going to question the youth. The youth are always going to question elders. Everybody feels like they deserve to be heard, and that's fine. No problem. I don't see a problem with those younger than me wanting to be heard. I have no problem listening. You just got to understand the level of the person you're communicating with. More times than not, the youth don't know who they're communicating with. They just think, well, he old, he don't know. Well, now you're in a position to teach. Oh, you don't like teachers, but you want people to listen to you. Make up your fucking mind. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing with elders. You think just because you're old, your voice is supposed to be respected. But if you're not talking to these kids in a manner that kids can or would want to accept, your mission, you're gonna die before you take the first step in your mission. New schoolers swear that their sound is the shit. And that's great. You've never heard anything else but your own sound. So yeah, of course you're gonna think it's great. My thing is, here's my philosophy about it. Everybody thinks their music that they lost their virginity to is the greatest music ever made in life.
That's true. That's facts.
I love golden era hip hop because I popped my cherry to that shit. Cool, but maybe not. Like that. Keep in mind, my era started that. Selling keys and calling bitches hoes and having 85 cars and that was my era started that shit. It's just now this shit done turned. It done went the way of the kung fu flick, where it's like the more blood, the more, you know what I'm saying, the more sensational, the more respected, and that's where it all goes wonky. You know what I'm saying? That's where it all got wonky. I understand fantasy rap, but I know reality rap. The fantasy is cool, but the reality is, nigga, I'm still broke. I'm still in these projects. I'm still out here trying to make a dime. Trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. I'm still I gotta live this shit. My stomach is still growling. And I get it, it's the blues. Everybody don't want to hear the blues all the time, but the blues is part of the reality. Hip hop is the blues. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop when done correctly. Let me be more specific.
There we go.
Hip hop when done correctly is the blues. It's the new blues. It's no different than the Mississippi Delta. It's just traveled up. It just traveled up north and went to the more industrialized regions. What the jazz musicians were doing in New Orleans and in Mississippi and Texas is no different than what's happening in the projects in New York, in Chicago, in Philadelphia, in DC. Now, now the time signature is sped up a little bit. Now and it's called something different. Now it's called hip hop, but it's still the blues.
I think in 2024, these conversations need to be had because there's a lot of gray area misnomers and misunderstandings when it comes not only to the business, but as far as the artistry itself.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know, me being able to be in those certain spaces to meet certain artists, and we talking about people that were at the top of their peak in this competitive market. I always took the jewels that they had, and it paved me a way of when I actually wanted to be signed to a label at one time when I rapped, but then that wasn't my lane because I didn't pursue it enough. But then I seen a way of me talking in a different way, podcasting, and I used those same jewels, and I pushed forward, and it's put me in the position of where I am now to be able to politic and connect with certain people to understand what we lacking, what we already have, and what we need to have a more mixture of. So yeah. It's been a process, man, and I wanted to say this too to any of the youth. Understand that sometimes you definitely got 2 ears and 1 mouth. A lot of times you have to be focused like a laser beam on understanding things that the people that have done it before you can make you miss those potholes and those roadblocks that you could possibly stumble across. And like he said, man, my shout out to my boy Sherv, man. He always said that I always had 5 jobs. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm always moving around and learning and expanding and stuff. Man, it was been a pleasure, man.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. For sure. What's going on, world? It's your man Dres Tha Beatnik, aka Follow the Hat. And if you ain't ready to yap about it, do not tune into this podcast. I'm gonna tell you again, if you're not ready to yap about it, don't tune into this podcast. But if you're ready to talk, we here to listen. Let's yap about it. I'll see you soon. Peace.
Yeah. Let's yap about it.